Welcome to the chain. We're your hosts. This is the BCC Club. I'm Kendahl and Sarah.
And I'm Sarah Shower. Each week we go down an internet rabbit hole. And what festive hole are we getting into?
We're in a very festive hole. The hole is covered in wreaths and nutcrackers. It is going home for the holidays.
Yes. So we're going to talk about just, practical advice. The thing is I just said this to Kendahl, but like if you have a really great loving relationship, travel doesn't hurt you that much, and you don't really need advice. So this is mainly going to be advice for people who are going home and they're like weird. It may be weird,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird relationships going on, I think especially this year. Well, honestly, I say that every year, though. I'm like, especially this year with what's going on in our world, but it's every single year. But, I think it is hard to go home and, see some people that voted a certain way. That's always hard. And,
yeah.
I also think I'm always surprised how many people still spend so much time with their family that they don't like.
Yes.
Like I remember being really surprised when I went on a cruise watching these families all wearing matching t-shirts, but they all truly seemed like they hated each other more than anything.
Yeah.
So I love my family, but I'm very surprised by how many people still go home every year, but they're like, oh God, I hate both my parents and my siblings and I hate everyone. But they just got to push through for some reason. They put themselves in this prison that they can't escape.
No, exactly. And the thing is I was learning recently, but like, okay, so the difference between like ridicule and respect, like if you guys, so people don't know the difference between like ridicule and banter. Like if your family is like all like fighting, but at the baseline you guys like love and respect each other, the thing that makes the difference between genuine banter and like making fun of someone is respect.
Yeah.
So if someone's like roasting you for like, your personality, what makes it banter is if they genuinely, without being prompted or told to, respected you to your core.
Yeah.
Right? Like they support you, they show up for you, and their support is never in a joke form. It's like they back you up, right?
Yeah.
Like anyone who's worked at a restaurant, like people joke about you being gay, but that every single line cook would show up with, a spatula and beat the crap out of someone if they were genuinely disrespectful.
I love that because they're a line cook, they only have the weapons that correlate with their job.
Well, the knives, but like the thing is
yeah, and they don't pick the right one. They said I brought a whisk. I don't know.
Yeah, so like a lot of people don't know if it's the difference between like banter or when someone is ridiculing or mocking you. So if someone is ridiculing you or mocking you, they're trying to make a joke about you, but they've never once respected that thing about you.
Well, that's exactly what I think, like, especially, someone who's grown up with ADHD and some trouble learning, I feel like I have, people joke with me, my friends, about being stupid.
Yeah.
And in sometimes it's in a fun way. And I can laugh at myself. Like, I will read things wrong, or I will misunderstand something, or I will nod at something that I actually don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But then I think there's been people where I'm like, then when I am talking about something that I know, you're not listening, or you like don't believe me, or you're kind of like, oh, I don't. And I feel the disrespect where I'm like, oh, you actually think I'm dumb.
Yeah.
Like when my wife makes a joke about me being like something I don't actually care because I'm like, you think I'm really smart and you respect my opinion.
Yeah.
And when I'm like actually being serious, you're like listening and taking my opinions into account. So I think that is, the difference.
Yeah. So if you have a family and you're like, well, when I go home for the holidays, we roast each other. I mean, that's all good and well. Make sure that you guys do have you don't have to tell each other, I respect you and your identity. But like if you want to strengthen the respect aspect and get more genuine banter out of it, like really listen to what they're saying, spend time with them. You don't have to reassure them, but show them that you believe them and that you believe, But if they're just making fun of you, well, that is ridicule, and we have some advice for you.
Woo!
Yeah, but
before we get into it, how was your week, Sarah? You've had a bit of a week.
Yeah, Naomi got surgery, and the thing is they got body contouring, like lipo surgery. They talk about this on their social media, so I feel comfortable sharing it because they love talking about gender affirming surgery. But so they've had a binder not on their chest but on their stomach the entire week, and so bathing someone is literally the most intimate thing I've ever done.
Doesn't it feel like you're like a lady maiden from like the 1800s?
Yeah, but it's like
you're like, let me put your bath salts in. Just like washing someone's hair feels like an old timey thing.
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting, and I like being raised in a culture obsessed with sex, like you always think of sex as the most intimate thing, but genuinely, truly taking care of someone when they can't take care of themselves is the most intimate thing. And I don't want to give every Christian ever some like, I don't want to reinforce your beliefs, but I must right now. Jesus washing people's feet is actually incredibly intimate. And like now I'm like, okay, this is nuanced. But like, no. So yeah. And if you ever want to get on a deeper level with your partner, bathe them when they're really sad.
Oh, yeah.
Or they can't,
When they're really sad.
Well, I mean, or
I just think it transports you back to like, you're like, I'm in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. If my partner was crying and I was bathing them, I would get a little turned on.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that's an interesting power dynamic that is. But yeah, no, I mean, like, and I'm not saying Naomi is sad after their surgery, but like, they're in a vulnerable state. And so I don't assume that most of you guys have partners who've just endured surgery. So I'm saying the more thing that would likely happen is if they're sad and they really need help, know, because that's just, it's such a being there for someone. And then I posted about it on my Instagram story, and every nurse ever was like, now you get it. And I was like, well, the thing is my mom's a doctor. I know that, everyone's like, oh, don't make sure there's not a code brown. And it's like, when someone says something in a language where you're like, is that a good or bad thing? Yeah. I know about code brown. So don't, but also it's wiping someone's butt is interesting. But, so yeah, and then I went camping. And camping was nice.
Joshua Tree.
Looked
like you guys had fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I got to, now I understand when artists go on retreats, to like write and get away. I mean, I do know that, inspiration, like when you're in a new place, like inspiration strikes. And so yeah, inspiration did strike. And yeah, it's just a lot of taking care of Naomi. I did get a part in a short film.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's a comedy, and I'm going to be filming that on December 16th, so that's going to be fun.
Congratulations.
Thank you. They reached out to me, and I love when people reach out to me about comedy stuff, because it's more serious things that people reach out to me for more, but I think is I still very much am obsessed with comedy. So if someone's like, do you want to be a silly goofball? I'm like, yes. Yeah. I've been dying to be a silly goofball. Yeah, but how has your week been?
Good. I've just been working up a storm because I'm about to go out of town for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So I feel like November is already insane usually with my work stuff, but then I feel like it's been double insane because I'm having to get it all done before I leave. But now it's kind of like all done. Good. And I'm leaving tomorrow for Europe. And I'm so excited.
Nice.
I'm really looking forward to it. And we have like we're going to Copenhagen first. Okay. So the plane ride is really long. Yeah. But I actually really love a long plane ride, weirdly. I really enjoy it. I feel like I really hunker down with all my books and all my movies and I can write. I just feel it feels nice. I feel like a plane ride, even though it's very uncomfortable, I feel like for an introvert can be kind of a hoot. Yeah. Because you just are given permission to absolutely not speak to anyone. Yes. For 16 hours or however long it is. Yeah. So I'm excited. And what else did I do this week? What did I do? Well, I did see Wicked. Okay, yeah. So I won't give you any spoilers because you haven't seen it yet.
I really want to see it. I was supposed to see it over the weekend, but then I read reviews for the actual theater, and there were so many people were singing. And I was like, I don't want to go. I'd rather just go a matinee. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a matinee is hard, though, because children are there. And recently, I have been like, you guys, get a hold of your children. I'm sorry. Why are they sprinting up and down? I was at a matinee of Minions 4, or whatever, one of the Minions. So that's on me. Yeah. I'm coming into a children's domain, so that's fine. Uh-huh. There was a kid climbing over chairs during the movie. I was like, what is happening? And the parent, it's not like, sometimes you'll see a kid doing something insane and the parent looks stressed. And I'm like, yeah, I get, I'm not judging the parent, but I've seen recently kids will be doing cartwheels in front of the screen and the parent is just sitting there I told them to do that. You know what I mean? So I feel like at a matinee, it's hard nowadays. Kids are just running up and down the aisles.
Yeah, I think, I think maybe just a playground or something of the sort. When you have a high energy child and you take them to a movie, sure, they may, I don't know. There's so many nuances to parenting and there's not a lot of spaces where you can have a high energy child. There needs to be a sort of like daycare theater.
Sure. Yeah. But I think it's hard because I was a really high energy child. I was on a leash.
Yeah.
My mom had a lot of kids and I was the first one to be put on a leash. So she didn't even use the leashes. And then when I came, I was so high energy. Yeah. I had to be put on a leash. I was out of control. I was getting sent home from school. I was a naughty kid.
Yeah.
But I knew, we go to a movie theater. If I don't sit there, I'm going to get in big trouble. And so I think it is hard because I'm like, you can't just... A high-energy kid what are they going to do when they go to school? They're just going to get in trouble all the time, and that's bad for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I actually think there needs to be something like a cycling class for children, but not like instruction, but like give them like a stationary bike, and then put a TV. Yeah. And then have like a movie theater experience like that.
Yeah. Well, now they have desks. Have you seen these?
No.
Like in schools. I think I could have gone to college if I had this.
Yeah.
Literally, you sit at the desk and there's a bar under the desk that swings. And so when kids who have ADHD, when they're in their desk at school, they can move their feet while they do work on the bar.
So nice.
Something like that. I think accommodations are great.
Yeah.
But your kid climbing on top of me during a movie feels a little extreme.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there is some probably nuance with Minions 4. And I assume there's some...
Well, and in everyone's defense, my wife had to shush me during it because I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, so you're the issue here.
I was scream laughing during Minions.
Well...
I think Minions is so funny.
Then I would like to put myself in the shoes of the parents and the children who are sitting still and they're like, that woman is so loud during the Minions movie. Read the room.
Yeah, the kids weren't running around. They were running away from me.
Yeah.
There's 2 movies I've ever been shushed in. Yeah. It was and both by my fiance.
Okay.
Minions 3 or 4, I can't remember what it was. The one where they move.
Yeah.
And they go undercover. Because I was laughing so loud.
Uh-huh.
And during A Quiet Place 2, I was sobbing so loud. My wife was like, "Hey, bud, you cannot do
really
too loud."
I haven't seen A Quiet Place.
It's not a movie you should cry at. It's really not like that. But I basically... Just the thought, so she has a baby.
Uh-huh.
During the end of of A Quiet Place 1. And she has to do it quietly because it's a quiet place.
Yeah.
So she's like giving birth naturally, no epidural, by herself, after a nail has gone through her foot, which just is, icing on the cake.
Yeah.
She gives birth and then immediately has to like run from the monster. I haven't seen this in a long time. But just the thought of a woman going through that much physically made me cry so hard.
Yes.
Especially with Emily Blunt because she's so charming.
Oh my God. There's like these like apocalyptic scenarios where that certain professions would really thrive. Anyone who has any background in sound engineering or design would like dampen the hell out of their home.
Sure.
They would just cover it with like sound panels. So you don't even have to whisper at that point. You probably talk at a normal volume.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. There's a lot of, I feel like A Quiet Place, I will say, there's a couple times, like, I know in the last one, it starts raining and everyone realizes like, oh, when it rains, we don't have to like be quiet because the rain is loud enough that it kind of like.
Yeah.
And I feel like they never really do anything with that. I'm like, oh yeah, you should like cover the outside of all your houses with like rain machines.
Yeah.
Maybe they're running out of water. I mean, that would not be great for
I don't know
the
about
environment. But
yeah.
to me, I'm like, with what's going on, screw the environment. It's all over anyways, you guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you cough to cover a fart. Like so it's like
you cough before the fart.
Well, I mean, I couldn't make the sound simultaneously, but so the rain would be like covering your talking. The fact that you didn't. I would take advantage of every rainfall, every landslide, every, Melissa Etheridge song. But like, no, but yeah, I also saw Don't Breathe In this weekend it's Sarah Paulson's in it. It's where the Dust Man, she lives in like the Dust Bowl in Oklahoma. And I think she's talking about the Sandman who like, cause she doesn't fall asleep. And she ends up killing people. But, I mean, that's Sarah Paulson.
That's Sarah Paulson for you.
She was yelling like Sarah Paulson.
That's good.
She was straight in this movie, though. Oh. She's always doing that. Like, what's interesting is, but the thing is I like that. Normally, it's always a straight character, like a straight person playing a gay character. I love when a gay character is playing
a straight person. I like it too. It feels empowering.
The only reason why I give The Big Bang Theory some grace is because the main character he's gay in real life, but he's straight on the show, and I'm like, this is subversive.
Right. That I know. Well, and in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Gay in real life, straight in the show.
I know that Neil Patrick Harris is an absolute horrible person for what he did to Amy Winehouse.
Oh my God. It's like every year I'm reminded of that, and it's been completely wiped from my brain. And when it's brought up, I can't help but laugh because I forget that happened, and it's so crazy.
It is.
It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Something else crazy about Neil Patrick Harris that I didn't. That's objectively horrifying. I'm reading this book on magic, right? How magicians think. And there's the Magic Castle in LA.
I've been.
And for the longest time, the president of the Magic Society there was Neil Patrick Harris.
Damn.
Because he's a magician and a magician enthusiast. What's up with those gay people are just in everything.
He's bizarre. Have you been to the Magic Castle?
No, I haven't.
It's good stuff.
I need to go. But
another place I cried, not so loud that I had to be shushed, but I cried because it was so amazing. The magic I saw there. Because listen, I mean, well, I think a magician would say this. It's like, I think most magicians are like, I'm doing a trick. It's like a skill. I'm not like a wizard.
Yeah.
But so you feel like you feel like you've seen it all, or there's tricks that you see and you're like, I don't know how it's been done, but I could see moments where I understand whatever.
Yeah.
The Magic Castle, I genuinely have no idea. The stuff I saw there, I was like, this is inexplainable. To this day, I still think about it like late at night.
Yeah.
It's a cool vibe too in there.
Yeah, I mean, most of what I'm deducing from the book I'm reading about how magicians think, because he doesn't really reveal how tricks are done, what I'm realizing is that most magic tricks are just utilizing consciousness, unconsciousness, and physics. Because they're like have to invent skills. Like if you have like a sleight of hand or like anything with like a card trick or up close magic, your consciousness can only take in one piece of advice, like stimulus at a time. And so like you can, like subliminal images. So like you have to, the threshold for what is conscious and unconscious is about like 50 something per second, right? So if you have to like work on like skills where you're going by speed, you have to be very, very quick, and people can miss stuff because it becomes like a subliminal image.
Yeah.
But that's also a book I'm reading on consciousness as well, because I wanted to know how people get tricked, and then I want to know how the mind tricks you. And so I'm hitting it from both sides, and I'm realizing a lot of stuff is magnets, physics, consciousness, perception, unconsciousness, misdirection. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, I'll tell you one thing. The thing that made me cry at the Magic Castle was this woman was a mind reader.
Okay.
It was the most insane. She was reading people's minds, Sarah. I mean, truly. There was one woman that was, and these were not audience plans. I mean, you can think that if you want.
Yeah.
I know this. I saw this woman. She had so many guests that she chose upon.
Yeah.
She would have them write down a dream they'd had before.
Yes.
Close it up, and they would keep it. And she would literally say what the dream was. She would be like, and it was so specific. Your mother, Jan, is standing at the edge of a cliff on a beach in San Diego, like that specific. And the person would start like sobbing because they would be like, how did you know that? That's insane.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple ways that you could do that trick. The main one is similar to deaf people lip reading. So it becomes a much harder trick if the magician tells you to think of something. If the magician tells you to write something down, that's where, I mean, it is still like a skill, and it really depends. So many magicians could have their own interpretation of this. You can watch.
But she would look away. That's what when she would write it, because she would be like, if you're just writing it so that you like can prove that you're not just being like, yeah, that's what it was. So she would write it down, and she would go away and like close her eyes. And then
how much time between when you wrote it and when she said it?
It was like immediate.
Okay.
And then the girl. So basically, the girl would write it down. The mind reader is looking away, and the girl, while the magician's still looking away, would fold it up and put it in her pocket.
Okay.
And then the woman would turn around and be like, "This is what your dream was."
On what surface did you write down what you were thinking?
Well, it was this woman, but it was just a desk on the stage.
Okay.
So there could have been a camera.
Okay, so it was a desk on the stage.
Yeah.
That is where the trick happened.
Yeah.
If it was on her lap, like the thing is like the desk is, all the props are like very, very, very intentional.
Yeah.
There is, it's probably has to do with the desk, the pattern. It's like, I mean, so many magicians can do something a certain way, but I'm saying in the book, they're like, when someone tells you to write something down, that is actually when the trick is about to happen.
Wow.
Like all of the props are very intentional. She did look away, but that also is a misdirection. When someone does a very obvious action, there is an opposite action happening somewhere else.
Maybe because she went into a corner.
Yeah.
Maybe there's she's got a phone down there and there's a camera on the desk, secret.
Yeah.
That shows her what the girl's writing.
Did she have an assistant?
No.
Okay. Was she like the scheduled performer for that week?
Yeah, she did back-to-back shows.
Yes. Okay. So the thing is she went into a corner, and that's not to show you that she's not looking. That is to direct your eyesight to where she is going. There is something that when she went to that corner, I doubt that other people were looking in the opposite direction, right? Or anything because now the table itself is unmonitored. We're now following the magician, right? And all these props are incredibly intentional. And the fact that it was written down on stage and that, like, I mean, mirrors literally like any sort of, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's like similar to how like deaf people can read lips, and yeah, but okay. There's more to tricks, and the thing is yeah, misdirection. But yes, so if we're all going home for the holidays,
talk about the biggest trick you can fall for.
Yeah,
going home for the holidays,
and we know with the election and just, I mean, if you're just gay in general, and your family gives you a hard time, I don't know why we keep going back. You know what I mean?
I seriously, you guys, stop going home. I saw a woman, who was it? I was talking to some woman, and I can't remember where or who it was, but I remember what she said. And I think it was like, I didn't know her very well. I really don't remember. This is scaring me. I'm like, who's this woman? I remember the story, though. But maybe it was on TikTok, and that's why. She was just talking about how it's like her parents are always like, you don't visit, you don't visit, you don't visit. And I was like, so I must have been talking to her because I remember asking this question.
Yeah.
Wow, God, I need to go to the doctor. My memory is like really getting bad, you guys. I was like, well, how many times a year do you go home? And she was like, 6. And I remember they lived like across the country. And I was like, you gotta set some boundaries, queen.
Yeah.
That is crazy. And how many times do they visit you? None. They've never visited me. It's like so wild. And I'm like, yeah, you gotta set boundaries with your parents. And then maybe you'll have a hard couple years where they're mad at you, but you'll move past it and then you'll have good boundaries.
This is something like, you know how people always talk about like issues with their family online, which makes sense. Like you talk about like, oh, I don't go home for the holidays. What I really need more than ever from a content creator in a mental health space is someone who is completely normal or someone who was raised in a very loving house, because they would actually establish the baseline for what's normal. Like, if you're like, I have a very close relationship with my family, but, you know, we do establish some boundaries and I make sure to go home to visit, you know, every so often. That way, like, if you know what is the correct way to go about this, you know, then you're like, oh, wait, my mom makes me come home across the country every 6 times a year, and she knows that I don't have a lot of money. Like, it's so reasonable to doubt if that's normal, if all you're comparing it to is, like, everyone, like, no, my parents beat me every Monday through Friday. They give me Sunday. They give me
Sundays off.
You know? So, like, yeah, if you're comparing yourself to that at all times, then, of course, you're going to be like, okay, so this is totally normal. But
that is funny.
This is an article by Teen Vogue. It's therapists give tips on going home for the holidays amid family tension. Going home for the holidays can be fraught with some, no matter the time, but in an election year, an existing tension can feel amplified. This year, you might be wondering how to deal with your Trump supporter parents, worried about the rise of open transphobia, or dreading dealing with those relatives. We all have them. Worse, returning home may not feel safe for some people, particularly LGBTQ people. Yes. So, how to handle tough conversations. Dr. Cynthia Ketchings, LSCWS, Talkspace therapist, recommends that you know your triggers and plan out how you will walk away if you need to. The holidays are supposed to be joyful, but sometimes thinking about dealing with some family members or specific topics can be triggering. If you have to spend the time with people that have different views, you have the option of opening up about your feelings or not. Some of the things to consider before are level of trust, previous conversations, and triggers, Dr. Ketching says. If you know that the conversation will be difficult, plan in advance and decide whether you have to stay or excuse yourself. Yes. My the thing is level of trust. So, like, if you really segment in your head who you can banter with and who ridicules you. And so, like, if you always have a safe haven with the banter people, and, make sure to, like, check with them ahead of time. Hey, guys, when we need a break from the crowd, we need a break from the crowd. But it's not going to look suspicious because you guys are hanging out in a group.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so you get, like, you get away, but, you don't look like a loner and a weirdo. And so, triggers for anything that, like, yeah. My main thing is a lot of Trump supporters, like, they have a genuinely skewed belief system. But the thing is how people who are, like, manipulators actually have a point. Manipulators try to get you alone when they try to convert your belief system. So if you're about to talk to a Trump supporter, you absolutely should be talking to them alone. Talking to them in a group will not make you feel sane. Also, environment seriously affects how the conversation goes. If you're at the dinner table with 20 Trump supporters and the entire house says Christ the Redeemer and Trump or Lord Trump is the Holy Ghost, that would be like going to a church and trying to convert someone to Satanism.
Well, that's my thing sometimes. I'm like, look, there's a range of people.
Yeah.
But so there's some people where it's like, oh, hopefully they don't bring it up. But I also think sometimes people are really walking themselves into a situation that I'm like, this one's kind of on you.
Yeah.
Why are you here? I mean, I feel like I hear this so much where, I mean, even for example, I'm trying to think to say this in a vague way, but so I'll change some of the details. But for example, like having a friend that comes to you and is like, I'm so mad at my parents because I was there and I went and visited them and they didn't wear masks the entire time, which is really important to me. And I am like, well, have they ever worn masks? Even like in the height of COVID? No, they didn't believe in masks. So did you really think they were going to wear these?
Yeah.
Did you ask them to? No. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, you're setting yourself up to get mad when it's like, then just don't go. Like,
yeah.
I think there is space to be like, if you really have decided, like, my Trump-supportive parents, I want to go see them for Christmas or any holiday. I want to go see them despite their political beliefs. I love spending the holidays with my family. And you go in being like, but I'm going to have a good time.
Yeah.
And here are some boundaries I can set to make myself feel better. Here's where I will leave the room. That's all great. But I do think some people come in being like, I'm going to be pissed this whole time.
Yeah.
Anytime my Trump supporting dad says something about Trump, I'm going to get so mad. And it's like, he's going to say something because he supports Donald Trump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, like, know your triggers, but also don't go in with this, like, fight or flight already when you've walked through the door where you're like, the moment the word Trump is spoken, I'm going to, like, lose my mind.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're going to have a terrible time. And it's going to be a disaster. I couldn't do that. Like, I could not. I could not get mad if I had a parent who kept just, like, offhandedly saying how much they love Donald Trump. So I would not go.
Yeah.
And I do have relatives that I don't speak to because they voted for Trump.
Yeah.
But so I think it is hard because I do think you have to find a balance. If you insist on going home and seeing these people, like, you do have to come in with you don't have to, but I feel like you should come in with a realistic expectation that is sustainable for the trip, because you can't just pretend your parents who voted for Trump are not Trump supporters, because they are. And that's just the truth,
Yeah. So, like, I would give the more immediate practical advice, depending on if you want to, okay. Yeah, so, like, either don't give any emotional reaction. You're like, Sarah, that's not practical. It is if you have Ativan. But then the next thing is grief is actually, this is not practical for the amount of time when this episode comes out when the holidays start. people, a lot of people think when you grieve someone, they have to die. No, you can grieve someone, like ambiguous grief. Like the thing is a lot of people, you know, that they go home and they're like, well, I want my parents to mask, but they never have. You are, you have a vision of who your family or your parents could be.
Right.
What you need to do is write a full-on eulogy, the life story of who your family could be, right. What you want them to be, right? What you've always wanted for them, and grieve that, right? Grieve that vision. Don't grieve your family, but grieve the vision of who you want your family to be. Because the thing is a lot of people, first off, don't understand what the term linear means. But okay, the stages of grief, right? You know, like you have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance, right? And a lot of people say, well, Sarah, that's not linear. What I said does not suggest that any of that was linear. But like I graphed the stages of grief because you can, and you're not at your lowest when you're depressed, when you're grieving. You're at your lowest when you're bargaining, right? So like if you're like in denial, oh no, my parents would never be that way. And now you're like, oh, you're mad. Oh, my parents are that way. You're at your lowest when you're like, oh, but they could be. You know, if I just could, maybe they see my value more. You're at your lowest when you're bargaining with yourself.
That's so true, yeah.
The depression is actually, you're out of the hole. If you're depressed about your family that will never exist, you're actually no longer at your lowest, literally, mathematically, emotionally. So if you want to, and I don't know that you have the time when this episode comes out, write out a eulogy for what you think your parents, your family should be, right? Really let it out, like give them, like almost like a story, like author, right? Like really give them all the characteristics you ever wanted. And then look up ambiguous grief. I did give some resources a couple episodes back on how to grieve ambiguously. Yeah. And then go through the process of grief of who your family could be. So the next time around, when you're with your family, you accept them for who they are because who they could be does not exist. And you have given yourself the time and the space to go through the motions and genuinely process that, right? And so like the next time when you've grieved the family that doesn't exist, the next time you encounter your family, if they try to say something inflammatory, this is what your family would say. You know that your ideal family would never say this, so there's no longer a disconnect.
Right.
The thing is when you get to acceptance, right? Acceptance, indifference, you are staying still. If someone cannot move you emotionally, whether that be like make you angry or make you sad, you don't care, right?
Right.
You know they love Trump because there's something wrong with them, right? And so if they try to make you mad, you accept them for who they are. You grieved who they could have been, and now you feel a lot better.
Right. Because the reality is you're going home to see your Trump supportive parents.
Yes.
That's the reality. They are Trump supporters. So I think sometimes it's this like, but for the holidays, can we just pretend that you're not?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if we're going to pretend, then honestly, it'd be easier for you to just do what I do in an Uber where I pretend to be a Republican.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if we're all pretending, just let yourself be like, I mean, I've done that in Uber. Someone's like, gay people are weird, right? And I'm like, hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
They are. I hate gay people. Because I'm like, I'm not trying to get in this conversation. And it rolls right off my back because I don't care about this man or his thoughts.
Yeah.
And I feel scared because I'm in his car. And I can just move on. So I'm like, if you want everyone to lie, I wouldn't want to spend my holiday that way. But I think it is this frustration when people get so mad every time they're reminded over the holidays. Like it's like every time their parent says something, they're like, oh, right, you are a Trump supporting asshole. And it's like, but you knew that when you came.
Yeah.
So I think now, I'm not saying to not set boundaries. I don't think parents should I think you can completely be like, let's not talk about these things, please. Yeah. That's totally fine. But just for your own self-preservation.
Exactly.
Go in knowing and I have this. Look, I have a family member who is a Trump supporter, and I am not close with them, but I have to talk with them on some occasions. And I think it's like most of the time when we chat about like morals and things, we agree on most things.
Yeah.
And then ever so often they'll be like, but Trump's great, right? And it takes you a while, but I think I'm at a place now where I can just be like, now come on, we don't agree on that. And it doesn't emotionally take as much of a toll on me. But that's also me. I think some people I'm a pretty good compartmentalizer to a fault, I would say. So for me, I know I can get through those scenarios without feeling completely nightmarishly drained after.
Yeah.
But if you know you can't, I also think, you just got to either set yourself up for success or not go.
The thing is also, if you're someone who sets hard boundaries and you said, when you're cut off, you're cut off. You don't need this advice. You're like, I'm not going home.
And also, if you've set these boundaries, because I feel like famously people talk about like the drunk uncle at Thanksgiving who cannot stop talking about politics. That man doesn't care if he argues with you. Like, this is not a man who needs to be, I'm trying to word this properly, but if you have an uncle or an aunt who's always just saying stuff that they shouldn't be saying, they are not going to feel uncomfortable if you're like, Uncle Joe, shut up. We told you to not talk about that. They're getting in fights with people all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, a person who's willing to cross hard set boundaries has been slapped in the face.
Yes.
And that is, so I also think it's kind of like, lean into that. Like, I have the relative I'm referencing, it's like when they say stuff, I do feel comfortable being like, now shut the fuck up. Come on. Like, what? And they laugh because they like know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
These people or they're blackout drunk and then it's like, say whatever the fuck you want to them.
Yeah.
I also think, acknowledging when you're actually upset or when you feel like you should be upset. Like, speaking as a Gen Z, because I feel like this happens in Gen Z, sometimes I'll see stuff online where I'm like, were you actually mad by this? Or did you know you were allowed to be mad by this? Do you know what I mean? Or you should be mad by this.
Yeah.
So I think like on the holidays, once again, for yourself, continuing to be like, did that actually really piss me off? Or did him saying a comment about Trump just light a fire in me or light a light bulb in me that knows that I morally disagree and I should be pissed off?
Yes.
Because I think if you can like try to just, if something really upsets you, that's one thing. But if it's just like, oh, he said that, and sometimes it's hard because I'm like, these people already voted. Or, and honestly, most of them probably didn't vote. That's probably the reality of it, and they're just talking out of their ass. But it's like, they already voted. He already won.
Yeah.
You know what they think. So I think just trying to identify when you can just let it roll off your back and move on. Easier said than done. Once again, I couldn't take this advice, so.
But also remember, environment and timing, you can be strategic. I also know that people who are neurodivergent, like, genuinely get dopamine out of debating someone. So if you're like, well, I enjoyed these conversations because it doesn't make you mad, it like fuels you. But then another thing, everyone is going to be drinking. And just like, if you have an alcoholic in your life, don't answer a phone call after 5 p.m., but you can also spin that to your advantage. I say this as an alcoholic. If people are heavily drinking over the holidays and they're incredibly, rude and offensive, and you want to get back at them, get them alone sometime before 10 a.m. and talk their ear off. Because if they're going to get stronger when they're with more people, right? And also, they are incredibly anxious right now, right? I'm going to say, psychologically mess with someone. Don't try to fight a drunk after 5. If you want to really hit them where it hurts, get them alone in the car, drive them somewhere before 10 a.m.
Oh, come on now.
Okay, let's keep
speaking of being drunk, I have to comment on the comments of last week's episode. I rarely read a BCC. I rarely read comments in general. But ever so often there'll be a comment that makes me question who I am as a person.
What do you mean?
Last week there was a comment that was like, Kendahl was so disrespectful in this episode because she showed up blackout drunk to BCC club recording.
What?
Rebecca laughing. I read a comment that's like, Kendahl showed up blackout drunk to BCC club recording. That is so disrespectful to Sarah. And then someone else commented, and I don't know if maybe this is not there anymore, but someone else commented and was like, I know, it's so crazy she was so drunk during recording. I was not, it made me question. I was like, what was I acting like? Because I didn't go back and watch the episode, but I was like, was I acting insane?
No.
Just to clear the air, I wasn't drunk. That is so crazy.
And you guys, okay, first off, that's 2 layers of offensive. The first layer of offensive is to Kendahl. Kendahl says multiple times, ADHD, that sort of thing. How many times is someone with ADHD or autism asked if they're okay, right? In like a condescending way, like you're fucked up. First off, that's ableist. Second off, I am an alcoholic. You think I don't know when someone's drunk in the morning? That is like, those are my people. When I say, you think anyone could get by me being wasted and I wouldn't know.
It's just so crazy that we wouldn't cut the episode. I show up blackout drunk, and then we were just like, well, what I just was, it made me, ever so often there'll be a comment that I'm like, do I need to like really be aware of how I'm presenting myself? Because it wasn't just that they were like, she seems drunk. They were like, she's like really drunk. And I was like, I thought I was having a normal conversation. How many times am I probably out to dinner and the person I'm with is like, good Lord, she's really wasted.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the way I was like, I thought I was talking normally. Anyways, I just had to get that off my chest. I was not drunk.
No. Trust me, I would know.
Okay, moving on. Sorry.
The general advice is this, like, it's just like being prepared to speak up or stay quiet will always be an option, but so is participating in the event. Sometimes staying home and enjoying good music, an interesting show, and takeout can be a wonderful option. This is a great time when accessibility is actually great advice. So, like, if someone has condescending facial expressions, a lot of, and I'm not saying that when autistic or ADHD people talk, everyone's face is condescending, but facial expressions you have to read. And so like neurodivergent people often look away when they're speaking because you have to interpret someone's face and their words. So it's like two people are talking to you at once. If you don't like how someone looks when they're talking, go for a walk. And the walk is it helps you like exercise. It has an inverse, like it helps with depression, but also if you're walking side by side, you're not looking at their face. Mm-hmm. So if, Aunt Pam is always some snotty like snarl on her take her for a walk and then just a little bit walk ahead, right? So that way you can tune out one person, quote unquote, which is her nasty ass attitude. Yeah, so this is what I'm saying, you gotta be strategic with these things. Or if you're gonna have a hard conversation with someone about politics and you really wanna throw them off and make them vulnerable to suggestion, right. I say this as someone who builds Legos a lot and interviews people. If you get a puzzle or a Lego set in front of you, it is incredibly hard to focus on a puzzle and what someone is talking about. Yeah. So if you wanna make them pause and you wanna catch them off guard, talk to them while they're building something.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think just getting them to and I think also you've got to think, once again, this is all advice for if you've decided to go home.
Yes.
So I'm not saying do this with every you don't need to do this, but if you're like, I have to go home to see my Trump family, I think you've got to humanize them a little bit and because I think most people that voted for him, they don't care. Like, that's my energy from those people is like, they do not care. Yeah. They don't care. So I think it's like, they do have other things they're interested in. They do have other things they care about. If Pam loves crocheting, ask her 8 million questions about crocheting. Yeah. And I think it will come up less than you'd think. But I think sometimes when you come in with this, like, you're the Trump supporting aunt, you're the Trump supporting cousin, you're the Trump supporting, it comes up more, honestly, because it feels like you're seeing them as like just a one thing. Yeah. That then it's like, well, what do I even talk to them about? And then there's dead air, and you never want dead air around one of those people. No. Because they will bring something up. And so I think if you've chosen to go home, try to be like, I can have a good time with my Aunt Pam. Yeah. She does have things that she's had happen to her in her life that she probably has wisdom from. Yes. She's not just trash, even though she did something that is trash. Yeah, the real if you want to just not do any of this, keep it low key and stick to the people who you banter with. But then also another thing is these are like highly competitive people, right? Like they don't view Trump. It was Trump versus Democrats, right? They love a good, pitting people against each other. But the thing is you don't want to be the target. So before you go home and you know that your family is just like super inquisitive about your love life, if you're going to have kids and all this stuff, this is another creative writing exercise that you could do with a friend. Really flesh out a friend who's a fucking mess, right? And then like it's like when you go on a date with someone and you want to have like a backup, someone texts you like, oh, for an easy out. Yeah. So you could do something similar in a holiday situation, right? Like your family is like, when are you going to get married and have kids? And be like, I can't even think about marriage right now. My best friend, Sharon,
listen to this. She is on a nice date night with her husband. And so out of nowhere, this waitress just throws an entire thing of hot soup all over him. And it turns out it's the girl he's been seeing. He didn't know that she worked there, right? You're enraptured in this other person's mess, right?
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
And then, like, depending on how much you want to get into acting, you could share the script with someone else. Yeah. So if you really need an out for this conversation, you get a call from your friend who is, quote unquote, Sharon.
Yeah.
And when you answer the call, briefly put it on speakerphone, and all she's doing is crying.
Yeah.
Right? Your parents...
You can probably look that up on YouTube, honestly, if you don't have
seriously.
a friend.
And you're like, this won't work. Has it gotten you out of a date? It will work for family. Sarah, when are you going to have kids? Oh, wait, sorry, Sharon. He's leaving me. He's leaving me. He's making me abort the fetus. I'm so sorry, Mom. I actually really have to leave for a second.
Yeah.
Because then the thing is,
good.
You didn't say abortion. She said abortion. And then you're like, when you come back to the table, completely somber. And then she's like, who's aborting what? I wouldn't.
I would never.
I would never, but she doesn't have any money, and she's...
And then you say, and then she'll say, no, because she wouldn't want the baby. I say, then you could say, give me money, but that wouldn't be good. But then if things get really bad, you can always call a friend and be like, you have to come and pretend you're Sharon. Yeah. Makes so much sense to be like, can Sharon spend Christmas with us? Yeah. So if you need an ally, now you can have one of your friends come stay with you for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. People love gossip. And if you're always on the receiving end of a bunch of questions, answer all those questions with a made-up friend who's a fucking mess. But give them a really nice career, so when your family's like, why are you friends with them? Yeah. You're like, well, she's my boss. And
gossip is the great unifier.
It is,
and I will tell you, cross-party lines, for the most part, people give when you talk about a bad man who's not treating a woman right, we all have got the same things to say.
Oh, and give this hypothetical friend very vaguely Republican features. Yes. All you hear is, Miranda Lambert, gunpowder, and lead in the background.
Pleather boots.
She's listening to her favorite album, and then your mom's like, oh, she likes Miranda Lambert?
Yeah.
She's yeah. She wants to burn his house down. Well, if you'll excuse me. It also gives you an out of situations, right? And so it's like, treat your family like a date. And so then you're like, if you're doing all this with your family, why even go? Because there are some family members that make the entire trip worth it, but this is just self-preservation, so you can get yourself out of some shit.
Or enjoy it. Look, I think there's something fun, and this is what's wrong with me, but the thought of going home to a, holiday drama gets me into the Christmas cheer. Yeah. I have to say, going home, and I don't really have this anymore in my life, but if I knew I was going home to cousins that hate each other, a couple that's almost about to divorce, liberals, conservatives, people who disagree religiously, I'm buckling up for the most jolly holiday of my life. There's nothing like a storm out into the snow on Christmas Eve. You know what I mean? I think if you're gonna go, get excited about the drama.
Yes.
Be like, I can't wait to watch my aunt scream at my mom.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch people drive off, and then we have to go meet her at a 7-Eleven 2 miles away and beg her to come home for Christmas dinner. That, just get excited versus, I guess what I was trying to say before too, is allowing yourself every moment. I remember a couple years ago, I was at this Christmas party and this girl had come home for the holidays, and she clearly didn't like her conservative family, but she was at the Christmas party. And it was we sang carols at one point, and every time it would be a religious song, she would be like, oh my God. And I was like, you are not going to make it through this season. Yeah. You've got to let yourself enjoy something. What do you think they're going to be singing? Chapel Roan?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So enjoy it. Have fun. Just being a fly on the wall to the drama is an absolute treat.
Also, the thing is people who are deeply selfish always ruin holidays. So if you always prepare for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, there is going to be some shit show that happens, right? That is going to be your time to start drinking in the morning. No, that is going to be but the thing is if you want to have a really nice holiday experience, you got to plan something for the day before the big important event with the group of family that you really love and enjoy. That way, so you can still have some positive familial association with the holiday, and you guys can all brief each other. All right, Mom's going to get too drunk. Dad's going to knock over the Christmas tree. all the kids are going to throw up simultaneously. You all can actually, it would be a fun family, bingo card.
Yeah.
You guys all place bets, familial gambling.
Yeah.
You're like, who is it going to be, right? That way you have a nice bonding moment, right? And then you get to face the music and, go through the motions.
And if you don't have family members who are on your side, find the family dog.
Yeah.
Project political opinions for him.
Yes.
Act as if the whole time he's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The golden retriever just has had quite enough of all of this, and he has to hear it all the time. Find someone or find a book that you like and just tune it out.
Yeah.
But I think you really shouldn't go to one of these unless you know another person is coming that you are on the same page with.
Yes.
Because I think for me, I could do anything if I have someone I can look at and laugh with.
Uh-huh.
That's why being, married is so nice. Like, I feel like I can go anywhere with my fiance. It's like, no matter where I go, we'll have fun, even if it's a bunch of idiots, because we can debrief on the car ride home.
Yeah.
To go alone, I simply would not.
No, that's when I would have to have, a whole bunch of backstories, right? Almost go to this. Actually, D&D people are probably going to be the most prepared for this.
Sure.
You realize this is a fantasy situation. They want to keep the family together even though a real family doesn't exist. So come with a bunch of whole scenarios, escape routes, try to think about how you're strategically going to get food to your room.
Yeah.
And, hide when you need to when you're low on gems.
Right.
Yeah. Also, if you're always rent a car. If you're flying there and they're like, we'll pick you up, always rent a car. You need to be able to get out of the house.
Yes.
That is the essence of, that's how manipulators work. Even if you're like, my family wouldn't, you're flying across the country to a log cabin about 2 hours from a town. Always rent your own car.
If only for all of the famous horror movie scenarios.
Seriously, you want to be able to, even the threat of you being able to leave is something that tempers someone a little bit. They're going to get more rash and drastic and extreme if they know that you have them alone. But even if you got a great pair of skis, if you can get out of there in some capacity, they're going to watch themselves.
And it makes it great because if you are listening and you are the toxic family member, person who called me a drunk, then you having a car, everyone having a car is better for everyone.
Yeah.
Because there's also people who want to do a storm out and then it's like, well, they can't leave because I have to drive them to the airport. And now they don't have to. They can just leave and they can go and Christmas will be better.
Yes.
Now, you also wanted to talk a little bit about chosen family.
Oh, yes. So the power of chosen family and how to find it. Actually, so this is from Prairie Care. The name Prairie does kind of scare me a little bit. I don't know if it's traditional, so I'm hoping that this is, but
the article is like, with God at the center of every holiday.
With Jesus as the sun. And I'm like, oh, wrong one. There are a lot of definitions of what a family looks like, and they're not always about sharing the same DNA or being legally linked through marriage. Chosen family or found family especially focus on a connection with people based on mutual support system rather than a biological connection, or because they're the people you grew up with. The connection in a chosen family is purely based on support, love, and respect. So let's scroll down a little bit. The benefits of a chosen family. According to a recent poll, more than 1 in 4 Americans are estranged from family members, with higher rates among men than women. And during the holidays, 22%.
Wow, that's interesting. With higher rates among men than women. That's interesting. I would have not guessed that for some reason.
Well, women are largely relational.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah.
But and during the holidays, 22% of adults feel stressed about the anticipation of family conflict, and the percentage may be higher this year following a heated presidential election. I myself am not doing diddly squat for the holidays. Who benefits from chosen family? People who are no longer have close family members. They identify as LGBTQ+A. Don't feel accepted by their family of origin, moved away or were displaced from family, feel like they don't belong or feel unsafe with relatives, experience physical or mental health challenges. Yeah, so so for gay people, I mean, go to a club, find your family. No, a chosen family can be life-saving support. Yes. Finding a supportive community and people is key to better mental health and is even responsible for lower rates of attempting suicide. In another study, one LGBTQ plus person shares this sentiment. Yeah, this doesn't tell you practical advice. You want to find gay people in an incredibly small town, right? And you're like, this is, one traffic light. Always the Episcopalian Church, Yeah, or anything, not even non-denominational, specifically Episcopalian. They're the homos. The next thing is, I mean, you could go to a bar, always look for the gay night. And then if, any wood shop thing, any I mean, like, if you hear...
Wood shop feels hit or miss, because I feel like you could also show up to wood shop on Christmas and it'd be a lot of, like, Trumpy men.
Yeah.
But then maybe one hot lesbian, and then that's worth it.
Yeah. And then also, stereotypes exist for a reason. If you hear of a softball event, if you hear of any outdoor sporting event, right, sure, you're going to have a lot of men there. But what you're also going to see is a whole bunch of lesbians scattered throughout the crowd. You feel truly alone. You go to like a Pee-wee softball event. Everyone's home for the holidays. Look up.
Yeah.
Am I seeing carabiners?
Right.
Right. Am I seeing sensible shoes?
Stereotypes.
And a practical haircut?
Right. Stereotypes for lesbians feels different than every other stereotypes can be bad. But for lesbians, I feel like stereotypes were invented by lesbians for us to show each other that we're gay. So don't fight the lesbian stereotypes. We're at the softball fields.
Yes.
We are wearing shorts that go to our knees.
Yeah. Bermudas.
We're wearing Bermudas, that's what they're called. We have the carabiners on. Like we these have been invented. No one said this about us. We did this, to show kind of that we're interested in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if there is ever a time to impromptu look for like LGBTQ plus friends, it's always during the holidays. If you mouth to a lesbian in a high school football stand that you can tell is clearly visiting from home. They chose not to stay here, but they're back for some ungodly reason. They're going to know that you need a friend, right? This is when gay people become the most approachable, is when they're back in their hometown, because they're also probably looking for another gay friend. Just got to be on the lookout.
Although you have to be careful, because I have come to realize that especially when you go into these small towns, the Christian Bible girls.
Oh, you gotta know
they
the
are
difference.
Dressed like lesbians.
Okay, so this is a foolproof way. Crunchy granola Christians, they are no makeup, outdoorsy, but always long hair, right? Like hair is their one splurge on beauty. So if you see someone and you're like, I don't know if that's a granola Christian, the hair, right? Okay. If it's short, that's a lesbian. A Christian woman would never do that to herself and then live. I'm so serious, like, because you know that she doesn't hear the end of it.
Sure, no.
She goes home and they're like, "Are you a boy?"
I will never forget. There was this woman. I can't remember her last name, but I think her name was Teresa. She was a Christian crunchy mom on YouTube who had just millions and millions of followers. Her videos were very aesthetically pleasing. I will give her that. There's a video of her sobbing. Because she got a haircut. She had short hair. And she is sobbing because she is like, every day people think I'm a lesbian, and you can't imagine how hard it is for people to think that of me. I just feel terrible. I cannot, like, the thought of people thinking that of me. And she's like truly sobbing because everyone thinks she's a lesbian now. So if you see her, be careful, but anyone else.
Also, if you want to find the gayest person in a small town that's yearning for connection, go to the local coffee shop, and they always have like the local artists, like their art up on the wall.
They'll be doing a pop-up somewhere.
No, like this is someone selling this for $50. Yes, of course. Now look at who it's by. Go to their Instagram. They live in the area. They're gay, expressive, regularly at the coffee shop, an artist. And they're in this small town, they need a friend.
That's so true. I'm actually so excited. I'm going home for the holidays this year.
Yeah.
Which I haven't done in a really long time. And I'm really excited. And one thing I'm excited for that I don't even think will happen, but I feel like there's so many people I went to high school with, so many like women I went to high school with, where we were not friends in high school.
Yeah.
We were in a bunch of, I was in drama, they were in basketball. Like we just didn't really know each other. But now we all follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah.
And slowly like 5 of them have, women from my high school has come out as gay. And I'm like, should we all get dinner?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when I see them, we'll immediately be like, we're friends, even though we were like not friends in high school. Because I also think there's this regretful thing where you're like, we should have been friends in high school. What if we dated in high school? That would have been, if we just like talked in high school, we could have been like boning all high school.
Yeah.
So that's exciting to me, to go home and see the people who are now gay.
Yeah.
Who are not. The gay men, I'm sorry, it's less interesting because it's kind of like, oh, oh, we didn't know, you know. But
Yeah.
the women, it's always really, you're like, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. Conservative gay people are tricky, though, right? You got to keep everything superficial and gossipy. Don't get too deep. Don't talk about rights.
Do a TikTok dance with them.
Oh yeah, do make a recipe. Like be what every Republican thinks of a gay person, because that is the life they're trying to emulate. So yes, they do have some elements of familiarity.
Yeah.
But don't get too deep. Always dancing, cooking, shopping, right? You can sustain conversations with this longer because you guys gay.
Right.
Yeah. You could also, if you're home for the holidays for a while, any choir. I mean,
join a choir.
Like if caroling, okay, choir actually is not a safe bet. Caroling, there's going to be one real gay.
Oh my God. You want to know what happened to me this week?
What?
I saw this trend online that was like prank your friends and partner to be like, I signed us up for caroling.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was so funny. And I tried to do it on like 4 of my friends. And it was very sweet, but it also made me sad because I let them all down. Every single one of them, I did it to my fiance, did it to my roommate, I did it to my other friend. I was like, I've signed us up for caroling. All of them were like, oh, that's such a treat. I cannot wait. When is it? And then I had to be like, I'm so sorry, I did not do that, and we're not doing that.
Oh my gosh.
I said, this is how I know I've really chosen. Well, these people are so game to do caroling with me.
Yeah.
It's very sweet.
I think it's interesting. If I would have texted people I knew that I signed them up for caroling, like your friends are like, oh, that's really nice. Mine would have immediately gone to my location. Because that's something I text people if I'm about to be shot.
100%. They said, this is not Sarah, or this is Sarah being forced to text something.
I know that they would have all, like, not even been like, are you okay? I would have seen each one of their dots from across the city start to make their way towards me.
I mean, signing people up for caroling is a thing I would probably do. That does sound like something I would do. I just thought it was going to be so funny. And then every person was like, cool, yeah, well, let me know when. I'm like, how are you not freaking out? That's crazy. For me to sign us up for caroling, going door to door singing. I'm a terrible singer. It's just very funny, but I did try that prank. But joining a choir would be good.
Yeah.
But just try to let yourself enjoy it. I mean, you've gotten yourself in this situation. There are things you like about your family, or you wouldn't go home unless you just really have no backbone.
Yeah.
There must be something you like. And, just try to find those things.
I'm going to say, this is maladaptive if you do it all the time. Dissociation does feel like your brain taking a seat, right? So, like, if you are... The reason why people dissociate when they're in very unsafe conditions is a survival technique. Yeah. So, if you know how to control it, and I'm not saying it's prolonged states probably, try some dissociation. If you truly can't get people alone, if you don't drink, if there's one person who should have came home but they didn't, some solid dissociation can save your life.
It's very true.
Don't stay in the prolonged state, and please talk to a doctor.
Yeah, and a reminder, we're not therapists, and
we're
we
not.
Don't know.
This is maladaptive.
Let's not.
It's a survival technique.
Yeah, exactly. This is just from our experience. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you have the happiest of holidays. I love the holidays. I think it's a fun time of year. Mm-hmm. I know it's stressful, but also a good reminder of where we're at with our families. If you're going home to your family this year and you're just absolutely dreading it, that's a good check-in for you. Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're dreading it and it ends up being great. Who knows? I hope that it's fun, though. I hope you have a jolly time. Mm-hmm. And I hope, Sarah, that you have a good holiday. I really do. And I just thank you guys so much for listening. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to rate and review. If you're on YouTube, I'm wearing a YouTube shirt right now.
Hell yeah.
Make sure to subscribe, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.